your September 15th public hearing using communications media technology through the Zoom platform. So there's two things that we'd like to accomplish today. One is to amend Article 4 of your rules and procedures to provide for conducting meetings using communications media technology. And then the other is to really run through a mock or a trial case so that you understand how the meeting will proceed. Make sure you all are comfortable with that. The hope is that if you identify anything that's not working, that we can write that up and fix it before the next meeting. Before I go on, I do want to thank you all for your patience. I know you got inundated with some things at the last minute, which is not typically what we do, but this is new for us, and we kept thinking of things after we'd sent something out, so I apologize about that. So what I'd like to first do is just go through the amendments to your rules of procedure and then talk to you a little bit more about how we see the hearing proceeding. First of all, we would be establishing this new section, as I indicated earlier, and it would enable you all to have this type of meeting only when allowed by law to do that. Like today, we're under this state emergency that gives us the authority to have meetings in this fashion. If those are not in place, then obviously we'll go back to our in-person meetings. The procedures would require that when we give notice, we will clarify that it will be a meeting like this, but it also gives us the option 3 days before the meeting to convert it to an in-person meeting. So that means by Thursday at 5 p.m. before the Tuesday CDB meeting, we could say, we now have authority to have an in-person meeting, and we could choose to convert that. We will let the public know that that is an option through the notices that are sent out in the mail and through information on the yellow signs that get posted on the site. We also have to make sure that the public and our applicants have access to participate in this kind of meetings, and we're going to get into the details of how we plan to do that when we talk about the actual meeting procedures. I think Mr. Boutsikas gave you an outline of that when he read all the information at the beginning of the meeting, but I'll go over that one more time. The proposed amendment to your rules also puts in place requirements for requesting party status and for submitting documentary evidence. And that proposed amendment required those requests to be submitted to the assigned planner listed on the public notice by 5 p.m. 3 business days before the hearing. So that means 5 o'clock Thursday before your Tuesday meeting, the public needs to let us know if they want to request party status and any documents that they want to submit for evidence, as well as the applicant has to send those in. If we do not get such requests, then everyone would waive their right to ask for party status. With regard to evidence, the proposed rules allow the board to consider one hearing continuance if somebody says they didn't have adequate time to prepare and submit. So that decision would be up to you if you would want to authorize a continuance to allow additional time. One thing that is new also is that this proposal would limit cross-examination to 5 minutes. We are proposing to also suspend the consent agenda because as we were talking through how that might be managed on the phone in the public, in council chambers, that might get a little cumbersome and confusing. Again, that's up for your discussion today. So at this point, I think that covers the proposal. Mike Fuino, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that was it. I was just here in case there were any legal questions that the board may have.
Okay. So if you don't have any questions about the proposed amendment, now I want to talk about how we would envision the meeting to be conducted. So we have structured the meeting so that the applicant and anyone requesting party status can participate 2 ways. They can be on via Zoom, or they can do it in person in council chambers. Any member of the public who wants to just provide public comment can do so either in writing in council chambers, or they can call in to a number that we have published to give input via the phone. They will not be allowed to participate in the Zoom meeting. Staff will present from our our building here at Municipal Services. And Mike Fuino, I believe, and I will also be on the Zoom meeting with you all. Since all the required evidence and requests for party status will be submitted to staff 3 days before the meeting, what we plan to do is create a spreadsheet for you that would give you information on all the cases, who the applicants are, did anyone submit for party status, and did we receive any evidence? And if so, we're going to send all of that out to you prior to the meeting. Also on the notices, we are going to tell people that if they want to provide comments, they need written comments. They need to get that to us no later than Monday at 5 p.m. before your Tuesday meeting. And what we will do is we will stay until after that time and then follow up and send you any additional comments that we receive from the public since you got your packet. Let's see here. So one of the things that we've been kind of going around on is how to best swear in people. And so what we have submitted to you in this script is that we would swear in the applicant, staff, anyone having party status at the beginning of each case. And then if someone from the public calls in, you would need to swear them in. We are open to that. We're not sure which way you think is the best way to handle that. So maybe when you proceed through the case today, you can determine how you want to handle that. We'll also have people that could be in council chambers and you would be able to swear them. I think I failed to mention that. So I think that provides a general overview of what we are proposing to you to consider for your meeting. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And if you don't have any, I'll turn it over to your chair, who's going to take you through a mock case.
I have a question going back to the party status. Just with the way the rules are written up, is it going to be the requirement going forward for whether we have meetings in person or by the media communications technology that they request party status at least 3 days for the meeting, or is that just for these Zoom type virtual meetings, if you will?
As it's written, it's just for this type of meeting.
Okay. That's the only question I had at the time being.
All right. I'll turn it over to you then.
Okay. So for those following along with your scripts, since we're doing a mock one, I'm going to pick back up where I dropped off in terms of under the category of where the regular agenda items are, as though we didn't have this little break and explain the procedures. So picking up from there, there are two types of cases that could be heard today, quasi-judicial and legislative. We have one item on the agenda today, which is a quasi-judicial hearing or a level 2 case. The procedures for quasi-judicial level 2 hearings. All level 2 cases, such as flexible development, are considered quasi-judicial hearings. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the Community Development Board reviews the application, the staff report, correspondence, and all evidence presented today, and makes a final decision, subject to appeal. This board has previously qualified all the city staff who will testify as experts in their area of professional training, education, and experience. The list of city staff, experts, and their resumes are in the handbook located in chambers. Any other professionals who desire to be qualified as an expert witness are required to submit a resume by 5 p.m. 3 business days before the meeting to the assigned planner. These resumes were provided to the board in advance of the meeting. The board shall determine whether or not to qualify the person as an expert in what field of study. At the beginning of each level 2 case, I will ask that anyone who requested party status by 5 p.m. 3 business days prior to the meeting join the meeting and state your reasons. Party status may be granted if the person requesting such status demonstrates that he is a substantially affected person. The board will then determine whether or not to grant party status. The case will then proceed as follows. Request for party status, presentation by planning and development staff, 10 minutes maximum, presentation by the applicant, 10 minutes maximum, presentation by persons with party status, 5 minutes per party maximum. Cross-examination of witnesses by planning and development staff, 5 minutes maximum. Cross-examination of witnesses by applicant, 5 minutes maximum. Cross-examination of witnesses by persons with party status, 5 minutes maximum. Comments by the public, 3 minutes per person. Reminder to anyone who wants to make comments, you should call in to 562-4646 when the case starts, and at the time of public comment, you will be placed on air. Closing remarks by planning and development staff, 3 minutes maximum. Closing remarks by persons granted party status, 3 minutes maximum. And closing remarks by the applicant, 3 minutes maximum. Closing of the public hearing and then discussion and vote by the board. As a reminder, anyone in attendance today who plans to speak up to an agenda item will need to be sworn in by the clerk prior to speaking. For today's meeting, this will be done at the beginning of each case after it has been read into the record. And to ensure that you have been sworn in for the record, we ask that each individual wishing to speak, including the applicant, speak into the microphone, clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk, and also affirm that you have been sworn in prior to starting your testimony or comments. Our first level 2 case today is case TRI 2020-09003 at 1720 Overbrook Avenue. It's a level 2 application. The owner is the city of Clearwater. The agent is Brian J. Onks Jr., McFarland Ferguson, and the location is 4.12 acres in the south side of Overbrook Avenue, approximately 500 feet west of North Bedding Lane. And we'll be reviewing a proposed public transportation facility as a comprehensive infill redevelopment project. The associations are the Clearwater Coalition of Board County Commissioners, and Mark Perry is the presenter. I have been provided a list of people who have requested party status by 5 p.m. 3 business days before today's meeting to the assigned planner. I will call your name one by one, and you will need to state the reason for your request to the board, and the board will determine if party status should be granted. For TRI 2020-09003, we have a request for party status from Christine Fisher. Ms. Fisher, you're on can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. Please proceed and explain why you're requesting party status.
I'm requesting party status because I'm an adjacent homeowner to the affected property.
Okay, very good. Board members, you've heard the request for party status. Does anybody have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there a discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
I'm sorry. When you make a motion, can you say who you are making the motion?
Who made the motion?
Jordan.
Okay, and who's the second?
Chris seconded that.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Jordan.
Jordan, thank you.
Thank you, folks. All right, and was there anybody opposed? No one opposed? Ms. Fisher, you have party status. With respect to being granted party status, the board has granted party status to Christine Fisher for this case. The granting of party status entitles you to these additional rights: personally testify, present evidence by documentary submittal, present witnesses, conduct cross-examination of any witnesses, present argument, and appeal a decision of the board to a hearing officer and/or to circuit court. We'll now begin with the presentation by planning and development staff.
Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt for 1 second? I see our script doesn't have a place for everyone to be sworn in.
That's
So-
right. Okay. So we have Ms. Fisher and we also have staff. So how do we, since we have staff, I'm not sure we can see it. Let's talk about this for a second. How do we see or we know who's going to be sworn in? Or is that more of a question for Pat?
Well, we will have the applicants will be on the Zoom meeting with us or in council chambers. So I think that, we want them all to be visible to you as well as staff. So Jay looks like he wants to jump in and say something about this.
No, I was just noticing that's a good idea. So long as the rule is in place that the applicant, the staff member and any people with party status have to be physically visible through the Zoom call, then we should be able to accomplish it with a single swearing in. And if someone gets missed for whatever reason, we can decide between Pat and myself, or maybe Mr. Chairman, who's sort of keeping track of who's been sworn and who hasn't. And if a straggler gets missed for any reason, which is unlikely in the form, they can be sworn in individually as they come up.
So let me just clarify if I can. We're going to ask for each case, or you want to ask everybody that's at the hearing for all of the cases?
I think it makes more sense to swear them by case. It's not
Okay.
quite as efficient as we do it in person, but I think it could become unwieldy, particularly looking at the agenda for the packet for the next meeting. Our little Brady Bunch windows are going to get smaller and smaller, and it's going to be really hard to see who's being sworn.
That's how we have
That's
the
my opinion.
script. That's how we have the script structured. So I just wanted to verify that. We just need to write in to the script when you want to swear in for the chair then.
Yeah, it probably should be, obviously should be before the presentation by staff, but it should be after we explain or we grant party status, I think. Earlier than
Okay.
that, we might miss somebody who needs to be included.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Quick question. Mike Flannery. I see citizen for item number 1 on the screen. You can dial in without being on Zoom. Is that correct? Without showing your face. So I just want to make sure that that would work if somebody is just on a telephone calling in.
We will not be allowing the public to be on Zoom. The public has to be in council chambers or via phone. So while we can swear in everyone that is participating in the hearing as an applicant, a staff member, or someone with party status, when you get to public comment, you're going to probably have to swear in the people over the phone.
Thank you.
So what I think I should also do on the walkthrough here is before each segment of this, when somebody comes up to speak, should I just be asking you, please confirm that you were sworn in? It seems to me that makes some sense. Just like the person on the phone, we know wouldn't have been, but if I don't have it written down, I'm going to forget it. I just know myself well enough. But I think that, right now we'll do staff. I'll see obviously Mark and the others there on the phone or on that image. But other than that, I probably should make it each time I should ask, just so it becomes habit, I guess, for however long we do these. Okay. All right. So Pat, do you want it? We have the staff. We have applicant. Who's our applicant on these images?
And the
here?
party status person and Miss.
I see.
and Ms.
Christine
Fisher.
Where is
All
the
right.
applicant technically with the staff presenters?
We
Would you
have
all-
no applicant for today's meeting, but they would be on the Zoom call or in council chambers. Lauren will play the applicant.
Okay.
Okay, would you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the entire truth?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our presenter today is Mark Perry. And you have the podium.
And Mr. Chair, Michael Foligno, Assistant City Attorney. Before the staff begins its presentation, we would ask the board to move Mark T. Perry in as an expert on the matters he's about to testify to.
So moved.
Do I have a second? That was Mary Lau. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Jordan Behar, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? There being none, thank you very much, Mr. Foligno. Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to do a screen share. I guess I'll start with the PowerPoint presentation and make sure that.
Okay, go back to the meeting. And then click screen share.
Okay.
And then select the PowerPoint
Oh, from here. I
from
see.
there. And then click share.
Oh, that's all right.
And then that opens up. And then
Oh, I
click
see. Yeah, yeah.
this to get the screen.
It's easier to control the data most of the time.
Yeah. So then you can.
You can tap into the mouse.
While they're getting that ready, if I could, we just want your feedback to make sure that these presentations still work for you in this format and that you're able to see all the information permitted in a clear way, presented.
And let me throw this out there as well while they're getting set up. If you're using more than one monitor, like I am, I'm set up at home as though I was at my office. So I was actually able to move the panel with everybody that you see that's in the meeting off to the second screen and expand that and see everybody still. So if that's important to you and you have a second monitor, you can do that. So I got everybody on my monitor to my right here and can still see them. Otherwise, it just becomes the presentation. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me with the mask on? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is just a test case. So this is 1720 Overbrook Avenue. The project provides adequate fenestration, allowing ample opportunity for defenestration, as well as excessive bifurcation. Staff recommends approval pursuant to CDC Section 9-1919. And these are the site plans. More plans. And everyone can see.
Go ahead.
Okay, I can do that. Yeah, that's why I asked it first, but yeah. Yeah, no, I'll take it off. That's fine. Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah. And that was it. Well, the dumpster is excellent. Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. So is the staff done with their
Go
presentation?
through the staff that will be presenting on the 15th, just to make sure they're comfortable with how to do it. So nope, you're gonna close out of there. You wanna go to the Zoom meeting?
Oh.
Kevin. Click the screen share. And then you would click
This one?
you could click the PowerPoint.
Okay.
It is, we just want them to know how
Okay.
to pull up their documents and screen share it. I mean, you could go to the beginning. And then you don't gotta click through the whole thing. We just wanna make sure,
Sure.
you would know how to click through it.
Sure.
And then when you're done,
Okay.
you know how to stop sharing.
Yeah, I know.
One problem I have is like, let's say for instance, if you're in one case and you're presenting a different one, close out his and just reopen yours. So this way you won't have too many windows up because it gets kind of confusing when you're starting to screen share and clicking throughout different windows.
Oh.
Like I said, you're just fortunate enough to be sharing the same one, but initially if it was done, then it's best to just close out. So
Okay.
it won't be too much.
Yes, I mean, at the meeting, on the 15th, we will have
Different cases.
9 PowerPoints pulled up.
Yeah, and that was the folder that you had closed out.
Yeah, that's so, and we'll also have the case documents, the evidence, anything, all of that will be in the desktop, so we wanna just
Sure.
make sure you know how to maneuver it.
Okay. So do I have to do the presentation?
Yep. So we wanna click stop
Yeah.
sharing.
All right. Yeah.
So another thing really cool. Most of your presentations will be in this folder that she put on the desktop for you.
No. I already asked it.
Okay.
These will have the same.
Out of curiosity, and I've never used a virtual backdrop before, does it make any sense for the board to use a similar backdrop for consistency at all?
Yes, I've asked Public Communications and IT to give you the blue background that City Council uses so that at least all the board members and staff have the same background.
Okay.
You probably don't wanna close out of the.
But we won't have control over what the applicants or folks with party status may have.
I don't know.
No, I just thought it would be nice for consistency across
Yes.
the board.
Agree.
Folder and then pick yours.
And what if we have to pull up the evidence for will it be all in
So they're going through their process right now of figuring out each presenter what they'll do on the 15th, correct? Eugenia, you're muted.
Yes, that's correct. They have a series of folders that they're trying to figure out how to work to bring up their PowerPoints and any sort of documentary evidence. If the applicant needs to say, use it, they will be responsible for putting that information up instead of the applicant, so that we don't have to share screens with the applicant.
Okay.
So they've never done this before. So, but I think that we could probably move on.
Okay. Then I would go ahead and move on to the next one, which would be presentation by the applicant for 10 minutes. Do we have a presentation for this? No?
Yes. This is Lauren?
Thank you. You convinced us all. We have next presentation by persons with party status. Ms. Fisher, do you have anything you'd like to add to today's presentation? And please confirm that you've been sworn in.
I have been sworn in, and I just wanted to say that Lauren didn't make her case.
Okay. We're good there. So continuing on, we have cross-examination. We're going to begin with, see who does cross-examination first. I lost my page. Sorry, folks. Cross-examination is first done by planning and development staff. Does planning and development staff have any cross-examination? And you're muted. No? Okay. I'll take that as a no. And then we have cross-examination by the applicant. Cross-examination by Ms. Fisher.
Fisher, no other
Okay.
cross-examination questions.
Okay. And then at this point, we now have open for public comments. We've been provided the board has been provided written comments that were submitted to the assigned planner by 5 p.m. yesterday. Is there anyone in attendance in council chambers that would like to provide public comments? If so, please approach the podium and state your name for the record and confirm that you've been sworn in. If you've not been sworn in, the clerk will do so prior to you speaking.
Kevin Nurburg for the public record, and I have not been sworn in.
All right, Pat?
Okay, sorry. Kevin, what is your last name, please?
Nurnberger, Nurnberger.
Thank you. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the entire truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And I just want to say I think this project is consistent with the character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else in council chambers with comments? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to provide their comments via telephone?
Yes, Kyle Brotherton.
Mr. Brotherton, have you been sworn in?
I have not.
Ms.
Okay,
Sullivan?
Mr. Brotherton, would you tell me your first and last name, please?
Yes, Kyle Brotherton. Last
Kyle.
name spelled Brotherton.
Thank you. Would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes,
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give us the entire truth?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Brotherton, please proceed.
I would just like to say that I think this project is going to be great for the community, and it has great looking dumpster enclosure, so I would be all for it.
Thank you for your input. Do we have anybody else on the phone with public comment? Thank you very much. Having concluded the public comments, we're on to our closing remarks. Does staff have any closing remarks?
Nope.
Thank you. Are there any closing remarks by the person who had the party status, Ms. Fisher? Yes, no?
Sorry, Christine Fisher, and I have no other comments.
All right. And do we have any closing remarks by the applicant? Okay. Having completed our closing comments, we're now going to, our public comments, we're now going to close the public hearing and have discussion and vote by the board. Board members, you've heard the presentation of staff and the comments from the public. Does anybody have a motion?
Quick question. Do we, unless I missed it, do we have an opportunity to ask questions? Do we want to make that part of the process, or should we just interject?
We probably should at the end of each person's presentation rather than just jumping in the middle. I thought about that in the very beginning when staff was talking, but because they were still looking through the folders, it slipped out of my mind. Great point, Jordan. Thanks for bringing it up. Because we should, at the end of each section, I think, ask if any, I should be asking the board members if they have any questions of the person who just presented. So I just want to make sure I add that in there as well. Let me go back. Thanks for bringing it up.
And then out of curiosity, if staff is presenting or has a presentation on the board and we're trying to if we have a question and we want to reference something in the drawings or within the package, can we request the ability to control or point or use?
I know we can.
Just verbally direct. Sorry.
I know that with the Zoom conference, you can request that, and the person who's the administrator for that conference can grant any particular individual the right to, control their shared screen. Do they want to do that as a question?
I don't know if that's going to be too complicated, or if we're just going to have to direct staff to go to a certain slide and keep it there.
So
staff where you need them to go.
Okay.
If the paperwork that we get in advance of the meeting is exactly the way it's going to look up on the screen, and we can refer to page numbers, that would probably be helpful, and say that, from staff's packet or from the exhibits, page 1, 2, or 3. Because if we have it in our hands, we're going to get our whether we get it by digitally or otherwise before the meeting, we'll have had everything, had a chance to review it, would have made notes on what we've got. We should know what page and where this information is at. We should be able to point to it, as long as the presentation staff puts on the screen is in the same order of pages. We should be able to make some reference, I'm guessing. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, oftentimes I make things up as we go along, so I'm not always that prepared. But so it's just good to be able to point to, just to have a way to. I just want to know the protocol. I think either way works. It's just a question of whether we would request, the ability to work the screen, which I do in some of my meetings, or in this case, it sounds like the easiest thing to do is just direct staff to return to a certain page, and it may just take an extra second or two, but that's fine.
Ella, how's that sound to you?
That sounds good to me. I'm planning on having the electronic version saved as PDFs on the desktop for each case. The one thing I would say is that the hard copies you receive and the electronic versions, they may be in slightly different order, even though they should be the exact same drawings. Just the way our electronic system is, it organizes them differently by different titles.
Okay.
So it's all there. And that was one of the things I clicked through quickly. I could kind of do a quick mock of, here is the plan set. This is the official submittal that the applicant provided for their project, which is what we base our PowerPoint on. But if you wanted to look at, we really needed to talk about this specific element of the floor plan, and that wasn't captured in the presentation, we could pull it up. But you would have to kind of tell staff, hey, I really want to focus on the schematic administrative building plan, specifically the storage component. And then we'd kind of have to just navigate there and be able to pull it up and show you.
Okay. So I guess the tip then for us on the board is that whether a question comes up during the meeting, flag it somehow, some way, or you look at it before the meeting and you see it, when you're trying to describe the page, give them as much detail about what document it's in and or what page it's on, so that way they can get to that point efficiently. But we just all have to have patience until we get there anyway. So, okay.
Yeah, that could be interesting. That could be very interesting. And definitively, you don't want to try to let one of the board members share the screen, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have a question about that process so far before we should have a vote, and same way we did the other vote earlier. I don't know if we need to jump through those hoops, but I'll ask for a motion and we'll finish up our practice case.
Chairman, I move to approve item 1 on today's agenda based on the planning staff report, the testimony at today's hearing with the conditions that are listed in the staff report.
Do I have a second?
This is Chris, and I second that motion.
Okay.
Forgot to say my name. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have any discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Passes. I was an aye as well. And that takes us through our practice case. So I'm going to turn it back over to Gina Clayton for any other comments we got. Lauren?
I was just going to say, oh, I'm sorry, Gina.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, at this point, then, while we're transitioning between cases, what I would be doing is pulling in the next round of applicants, shutting off, and sending away the party status people and applicants from the case that you've just heard. So you'll see some shuffling on the screens at that point.
Okay. So there'll be some pauses between the cases simply because of having to get that done, but I'll be announcing or reading the next case summary, and I probably shouldn't speak as fast as I normally speak, so that way you guys have time to get that done.
Probably a good idea.
I do have a question with that presentation, and Gina, I mentioned this to you as well. I'm just thinking, if there is no applicant in there, or the applicant has absolutely nothing to present, and we know that in advance, and there's been no emails or communications from the public in advance, and there's nobody there from the public, is there a scaled down version, or they have to go through the entire presentation? If we're doing away with the consent agenda, having staff speak to something that nobody is going to object to is kind of fruitless, but having them give at least a brief overview, something scaled back, would be helpful in case it triggers a question from the board members. We don't want to necessarily skip that either.
Sure, we're prepared to do that. We will do a scaled down version of the presentation if there's no one around.
Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna turn it back over to you to wrap up with, I guess we technically shift into agenda director's item 2.
Okay, well, thank you all for that. And I want to thank Lauren and Ella and Public Communications and IT and all of our staff for putting this together. It's been a challenge, but I think that it looks like it's going to work out pretty well. The one thing that I just do before you vote on the proposed amendment, I do want to make sure you understood that we are limiting the time frame for cross-examination to 5 minutes, whereas I think with some of the change you made back in 2018 did not impose a time limit on that. So I just wanted to point that out and make sure everyone was comfortable with that. I think I don't have anything else to add, and we'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
I've got a question on voting. Is there, do we want to do a visual cue or something when you're voting, or are we going to vote independently, each individual? Because perhaps somebody has their microphone on mute and they don't even realize it. So I'm just wondering if there's a mechanism we want to have, a visual cue or something.
Yeah, may I say? At other board meetings we've done in the city, the chair has called out each member's name, and the member has stated aye or nay for each vote.
Okay.
Okay.
We can definitely do a roll call vote on each of them. It makes more sense with this.
Doesn't? I was going to say, I mean, if there's no nays, a lot of times, like it's mostly, if there's no nays at all, I mean, do we really need to go through and count, and do individual?
I think it's a good idea in case somebody's mic is off or something like that. That way you're guaranteed to hear what they said and be recorded. Just do a roll call.
Jay, your thoughts on it?
It's probably cleaner for a roll call vote. I think that's true. It's when everyone, I found the Zoom platform, when everyone tries to speak at once, you don't really know what they said, and it's really difficult to sift through. So I think the safer alternative is to do a roll call vote.
Okay. We need to add that into their procedures, but I think that makes sense to me. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on that stuff? Or any questions of the change to the to our rules to be able to use communications media technology? So I guess basically at this point, do I have a motion to approve the amendment to our Community Development Code Board Rules of Procedure?
This is Chris. I so move.
Do I have a second?
This is Mary Lau. I second.
Okay. We have Chris and we have Mary Lau. Then is there any discussion on the motion? There being none, Vice Chairman Askevich? Yay or nay?
Yay.
Brian Barker?
Yay.
Jordan Behar?
Yay.
Mike Flannery?
Yay.
Mary Lau?
Yay.
John Quattrocki?
Yay.
And I vote yay, yay as well. It passes unanimously. Is there anything else we have from a director?
Could you guys, I'm sorry, could you guys say aye? Because yay and nay sound a lot like.
Aye.
You could also try yes or no.
Okay,
Easily distinguishable.
all right, just not rhyming words.
Sound like a bunch of
Got it.
pirates.
We'll just try and make it as hard as we can on you, Pat.
Good.
So two things. I just wanted to let you know we are continuing our work on the Citizens Guide to CDB hearings. We've been working with public communications. Jordan had given us some ideas about, maybe we needed to make it a little more consumable. So we're working on that in a question and answer format, and then also with an executive summary. So for those who just wanted to get the gist of the process, they can read the executive summary, and those who really are interested in full participation will have a document. So our goal is to bring that back to you. I think we won't be ready until October because we're working with public communications to, make it into a nice public consumable document. The other thing is I wanted to mention is you might have heard in the news that we are going to be undertaking construction at the main library. Once we are allowed to have in-person meetings, we will be back at council chambers during construction. The building will be open on the weeks that council have meetings, which coincide with your meetings typically. So I think we have one meeting that we may have to jockey around during this time of construction, but I just wanted to let you know that we'll still be meeting at council chambers once we have public meetings in person again.
Anybody have any other questions of staff or anybody else who's been on the call so far? Well, thanks everybody for being a part of this today. It was very interesting. I'm glad we got the rules approved and we have the hearing on the 15th. I think we'll have a full agenda.
You will have 9 cases.
9 cases.
Yay.
Yeah. So plan the afternoon, have a snack handy, glass of water, whatever the case may be. But thanks everybody. That adjourns today's meeting.
Thank you all. We appreciate
All
it.
right. Good job. Thank you.
Gina.
Thank you.
Yeah, real quick, Gina, you still there?
Yes.
Just a real quick question. I assume, like in chambers, I haven't done this in a long time, but if you ever have to get up and leave for some reason, it's always been acceptable I haven't done that in years. I haven't seen anyone do it in years, but since everybody's working from home, is there any protocol or process to just excusing yourself for a minute if you need to, or if there's anything going on?
Pat, has everyone just been stopping their video feed while they do that?
I haven't been to a
Yes.
meeting. Why?
That's what I think you need to do.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought it was good to bring it up beforehand. Just stop, just mute and turn your video off for a second and you can step away. Okay.
That's what I've done when I've had just something to address here at home. Lauren, you had your hand up?
Yes, as I said, I'm being coached behind. So yes, turn your camera off and mute it. But also the question is, do we want to establish that we would take a break after 2 hours if the meeting goes that long, so that way everyone can take a 10-minute break? It is advised that you say that.
Okay.
In which case we can make sure that that's written in as well.
Well, one of the things that you can also do is somebody in the background, if a meeting's going, it looks like let's say we're almost 2 hours in and we're on agenda item 5 of 9, then you can send a chat message to me directly as chair and say we should be taking a break shortly. I can say after this case we'll take a break. So I'll pay attention to the chat. I generally do, and or say we'll take a break in 20 more minutes or whatever the case may be. So that way people have a heads up about it, but they also know we're going to take a break. Yes.
Okay, great. So
I noticed had a little number 1 there. I said, oh, there's a chat and see who wrote what. And then I saw the phone person. I said, oh, there's a little box for the phone person. So that worked out well. It's good.
Yeah, so I'll use that to communicate with you. Again, it'll be part of public record, but that's how I'll let you know or remind you of anyone on the phone or party status or what have, or no, because we'll have party status in advance, but anyone on the phone, I'll give you a cue and then I can help watch the time as well.
Right. And I think that would work out best. And I don't mind, again, the chat stuff pops up, and if it being public record is irrelevant, I think that letting everybody know they need a break maybe in a little bit is not a bad thing.
Of course.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
All right, folks.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.